So moving on to our last topic, obviously continuing the trend of the last couple episodes, we're going to preview the NFC South. So that is the Buccaneers, Falcons, Panthers, Saints. So you want to give us the kind of the backstory with this division and who they're going to be playing this year?
Yes, one of the most intriguing divisions in all football, arguably kind of the best quarterback carousel in all football with Drew Brees with the Saints, obviously Tom Brady, the new Buccaneer, the Falcons with Matt Ryan, and then the Panthers are going to have a new quarterback here with Teddy Bridgewater. So this NFC South team or just entire division will end up playing the entire NFC North, so led by, of course, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, like we're just talking about, and the Bears and teams of that nature, the Vikings, the Lions, and then they're going to end up playing the AFC West as well. So that's going to be very tough for them. Just some absolutely great games. I mean, every single quarterback, every single team in this division is going to be playing Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Just some really good AFC West teams. So it should be very interesting for the NFC South. And every single NFC South team, whether in division or not, should certainly be a must watch game.
Yeah, I think kind of the way they picked the divisions for them to play, I think they did kind of want to get that rake all the cash in they could by having Tom Brady play Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady playing Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that's happened much in their two careers with Aaron Rodgers and Brady playing against each other. So I think they're trying to get the most out of that new Tom Brady and the Buccaneers organization. But going into this division,
Yeah.
I think the team that will win this division is the team that has won it the past couple of years. And I think that's the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
I think they have one of the best rosters in all of football, but the Saints struggle at is kind of not adding more talent each year. They kind of just stick around with the same roster.
Yeah.
They did sign Emmanuel Sanders, Malcolm Jenkins. They did draft Cesar Ruiz and Zach Bond, but outside of those four players I just listed, they haven't really improved the roster too much.
Yeah.
So although they do have a great roster, they do stay way too stagnant during the offseason, which that's why I could see them being overtaken at the top of this division by someone like the Buccaneers or even taken over by someone at the top of the NFC by someone like the 49ers, like they did the past year, and the Packers, if they are able to perform the way they did last year. But as of right now, I'm going to go with the Saints at the top of the NFC South.
Yeah, I mean, you said stagnant, and that's really the theme for this entire division. Out of all the divisions we've done so far, and I think we'll end up doing, this NFC South had the least amount of transactions in the entire NFL in terms of players they lost and players they added. Now, obviously, the Buccaneers, everybody thinks they had the biggest offseason, but really, the only players that they brought in were Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. Now, I do know those are two huge acquisitions, but they really did not add anybody else, didn't even really lose anybody else. And same with basically every team in this division. I know the Panthers have a huge kind of turnover on their coaching staff, which I'll get into in just a little bit. But kind of going off your point with the Saints, I've always said that there's really retraction from no addition in the NFL. So really, if you don't do anything in the offseason, if you have no moves and you win the division, you go 13-3 like the Saints did, not necessarily will their record get worse, but I do think their team is going to get slightly worse because, again, they did only bring in Malcolm Jenkins and Emmanuel Sanders, and I really don't think Malcolm Jenkins is too much of a great safety anymore. I think he's up there in age. I know his kind of role was depleting with the Eagles. I know his kind of just impact was not really that much there with the Eagles anymore after their Super Bowl victory. Again, you have Emmanuel Sanders. He's a really good veteran wide receiver who is going to be able to win one-on-one matchups for Drew Brees and the Saints. But again, I mean, all the Saints really did this offseason was that, like we just stated, they re-signed their two quarterbacks, Drew Brees and Taysom Hill. They did get another backup quarterback in Jameis Winston. Again, but no really significant losses. They did lose Teddy Bridgewater, who was a very good backup quarterback, and they drafted Cesar Ruiz again, like you stated. But I think he's a bit of a project center. I think there's a bit of a hole in that offensive line right now. But besides that, again, I do think the Saints will win the division as well. I do agree with you there. But I certainly do not see the Saints even going to the NFC Championship. I think at this point, I mean, their Super Bowl window did close. I don't think they're going to be winning a Super Bowl anytime soon. And if they are in the NFC Championship, it would really surprise me to see them end up being victors.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints fans always complain about them getting kind of the short end of the stick in playoff games, but I mean, when you look at it against the Rams a couple years ago, they had overtime and they lost that game. I mean, they had overtime and Drew Brees threw an interception to lose the game. I mean, and then in
Yeah.
the Vikings just kind of just outplay them with bigger plays in the game. So they do have a great roster, but they don't perform in the playoffs. That's why I don't see them being able to finish deep in the playoffs. I think they'll be able to kind of maybe get a bye week, maybe win a wild card game, but besides that, I don't see them going to an NFC Championship game, like you said.
Yeah, I think some news that kind of just flies under the radar with the Saints is that their running back Alvin Kamara seemed to regress last season. And I think with the regression of Alvin Kamara and just kind of this offense staying stagnant, staying the same the past couple of years, I do think we're going to see a slight dip in not only the win total for this team. I alluded that I wouldn't be surprised if they went 13-3, but I can see them only winning around 11 to 12 games. I know that's still a high win total. I think they still will win the division with that win total, but again, they're playing some tough NFC North teams. And I mean, if you get into week 15, 16, week 17 with Drew Brees at quarterback, I mean, you're really teetering on not really being able to have an efficient passing game because you go up to the Windy City, you go up to Lambeau Field. It's going to be really hard for Drew Brees to pass for 25, 30 yards down the football field. And I think the Saints offense has the potential to have a bit of a regression this year because more NFL teams will kind of hone in on the short passing game and the intermediate passing game like the Saints have kind of been doing. But kind of getting off of the Saints here, which we do think will win the division, but I think the Buccaneers really, really, I know there's a huge hype train around them. I know there's some people that think, oh, they're not even that good. Some people think, oh, they're Super Bowl contenders. I think the truth kind of lies in the middle with this Buccaneers team. I do think they're going to fight neck and neck with the Saints for this division until the end of the year, really. I think we can see a Week 17 matchup that does decide this division between the Bucs and the Saints. But again, they were 7-9 last year with a quarterback in Jameis Winston who threw for 30 interceptions, which really is incredible. Tom Brady is going to bring such an element of just efficiency. He's going to just get all the 5-yard dump offs that the defense will allow them and just really mistake-free football for this Buccaneers team, which under Bruce Arians, really teams aren't used to seeing. So I think that's going to be great. I know Rob Gronkowski isn't going to have too much of an effect on this team, maybe a red zone target, but again, they tagged Shaq Barrett, who is one of the best pass rushers in the league. And they really had no key losses, which is huge because their defense was already pretty good last year with the additions of some rookies as well. So, I mean, they did bring back JPP and then Ndamukong Suh. They did draft an offensive tackle in Tristan Wirfs, and they got one of my favorite defensive players of the entire draft in the second round in Antoine Winfield Jr. So I do think this Buccaneers team is really in store for an 11-win, 12-win season.
Yeah, I mean, I was ever so close to putting the Buccaneers at first, and I mean
Yeah, me
first
too.
in this division, but I just think the Saints are a little bit better all around in their whole roster. But the Buccaneers, they did, like you said, they went 7-9 with someone who threw 30 interceptions last year.
Yeah,
Just having the mindset of Tom Brady, the efficiency, just the knowledge of the game, I think they are going to be able to go 11-5, 12-4. I mean, I just think that their defense is really, really underrated. I mean,
yeah.
they were really great front seven with JPP, like you said, Vita Vea, Ndamukong Suh, Shaq Barrett. They just have a great front seven. I think their secondary is a little questionable, but adding Antoine Winfield really could add some depth and help back there. But Tom Brady, throughout his whole career in New England, never had great wide receivers. I mean, he had Randy Moss and Wes Welker at one point, but having someone like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Humphreys, I think is his name, Tyler Johnson, drafting Tyler Johnson in Minnesota, he
Yeah.
just great wide receivers around him and great talent like we've never seen him have before. So I think that they are going to be they are going to be a force this year going into the 2020 season.
Certainly. I mean, one of the best really tight end rooms too with OJ Howard, Cameron Brate, and now you are adding again a really good red zone target, somebody who can be an efficient blocker as well in Rob Gronkowski. So definitely, I do think the Saints and the Buccaneers are going to be battling in this division, and I think those are the two only playoff teams from this division because now we're going down to the Falcons and the Panthers. Again, the Falcons had 7 wins last season, just like the Buccaneers. But, I mean, really the biggest move of their offseason this year, last year, and the year before, really, in my opinion, has been simply to just keep their head coach in Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn is one of the worst head coaches in the entire National Football League. I mean, he's ranked near dead last in defense year in and year out, and he's supposed to be a defensive coordinator. He's supposed to be this great defensive mind, and really the problem with the Falcons have been schematically. I mean, year in and year out, they have one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. Not only on the offense, of course, you have Matt Ryan. Now you brought in Todd Gurley. You trade for Hayden Hurst, the tight end from the Ravens. You signed Dante Fowler, who's a pretty good edge rusher. But you ended up losing Austin Hooper, who's a very good tight end for you. You lost Vic Beasley. You lost Desmond Trufant. You lost DeAndre Campbell. You lost Adrian Claiborne, and you lost Jack Crawford. So all the players I just named besides Austin Hooper were very key contributors on that defensive side, which really has so much talent again in all these players, but really were never used right in scheme. I think defense really is mainly about the scheme and playing as a cohesive unit than it is the individual parts and players. And again, that really has been the problem with not only the kind of Falcons defense, but the Falcons offense ever since Kyle Shanahan walked and ended up signing with the 49ers. So again, the Falcons, I think they take another regression in the 2020 season simply because they still have Dan Quinn as their coach. And I see no changes happening with this team. I see no playoff aspirations from this team until they fire Dan Quinn.
Yeah, I think the most astonishing thing about the Falcons, I'm pretty positive you can check me on this, but I'm pretty sure their whole offense is made of all first-round picks. They have a couple that aren't first-round picks, but just the talent that they have on their team and they're not able to make the playoffs just shows how bad of a coach Dan Quinn is.
Yeah.
So I think for the Falcons to make that next step to making the playoffs again, I mean, they haven't made the playoffs since they lost the Super Bowl against the Patriots. So firing Dan Quinn, I think they are going to be able to make that leap. So, I mean, last year I thought Dan Quinn was going to get fired at like the trade deadline, but he didn't. He keeps prevailing somehow. But in order for the Falcons to become a powerhouse in the NFL again and be known as the top of the NFC like they were at one point, they do need to fire Dan Quinn and hire another offensive coordinator because whoever their offensive coordinator is does not know how to use their personnel. I mean, Julio Jones, for some reason, is just so mismanaged in the red zone. He is almost non-existent in the red zone, which is just terrible considering how big he is and how much talent he has.
Yeah, he should certainly be the best red zone target in the NFL by far. I mean, neck and neck with guys really like Mike Evans in this division. I mean, it's really just embarrassing that year in and year out he has such a low touchdown number just because he's so mismanaged. And I mean, even Matt Ryan, I think, is a Super Bowl capable quarterback. Obviously, we saw him win the MVP in 2016, really almost win a Super Bowl in 2016. But I mean, you look at some guys that have won Super Bowls in NFL history. I certainly think Matt Ryan is better than some of those guys. So again, I think the Falcons next year do have a very playoff capable roster, but just their culture and their coaching staff just is not indicative of playoff football whatsoever. So I'm really not counting on the Falcons doing anything. Now I will note that the Falcons started off last season absolutely horrible, played most of the season absolutely horrible. I think they had a key loss against the Arizona Cardinals, and then ever since that loss, that kind of catapulted them into, I think, about a 5 or 6 game winning streak. So that's something to note. I know we're hyping up teams like the Broncos who had the same record in 7-9, and the Falcons do have a 7-9 record and do have that late kind of season success we see some teams that ended up having big turnarounds from season to season having. So that is something to note. Again, if they can ride that momentum that they kind of ended off on last season, then it would be great. But it is a new league year. I mean, it's a new day one. So I do not think the Falcons end up going to be any playoff contenders in 2020, but kind of transitioning into our last team in this division in the NFC South is going to be the Panthers. And I really did love the Panthers offseason. No really flashy signings, getting a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, but their main additions really to me are bringing in head coach Matt Rule, who is a great coach in college football, really just instilled great cultures to every program he went into. And then arguably just as big as bringing in Matt Rule, I think is bringing in Joe Brady, the LSU offensive coordinator, for this great Joe Burrow kind of 60 touchdown run that LSU ended up going on, the most prolific just passing season from an NCAA team in history. So I really do think that the foundation is there for the Panthers. I think they're really going in a great direction. And with the signing of Teddy Bridgewater, I really do think it's a win-win situation for Matt Rule because just at the worst, Teddy Bridgewater plays like he really played with the Vikings, and that was really subpar quarterback play, kind of game manager play. And Matt Rule could kind of say, well, I don't have the QB. I need a rookie QB, and he's going to end up drafting a very good rookie quarterback in sometime in the future, I would predict. And then he could kind of ride out his contract with that rookie QB and get re-signed or fired with whoever he drafts. So really a win-win situation with him there. I mean, if Teddy Bridgewater ends up being a good quarterback for him, then it makes Matt Rule look even better. He was able to succeed with kind of a game manager type quarterback. But getting into their offseason a little bit more, they did draft Derek Brown. They signed Robbie Anderson. I know they did lose both of their quarterbacks in Kyle Allen, who showed a lot of potential to be a good backup quarterback, and Cam Newton. So that's really the main news out of the Panthers.
Yeah, I think the Panthers are a little too young and a little too fresh to make the playoffs to be a good team this year. But I think fast forward in a couple of years, I think they can be at the top of this division because this division is so old if you look at the Saints and the Buccaneers. But I really like Matt Rule, Joe Brady, kind of the wizard behind Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow first year kind of mediocre he was. Getting an offseason under Joe Brady, he was able to become the best single-season quarterback of all time in all of college football. I don't think that's arguable. But I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be that transition quarterback for them. Have him for 1 year or 2 years, and then draft someone next year or the year after. Getting someone like Justin Fields under center after this year would be great for them because Matt Rule would be able to get his own quarterback in there. But I think looking at the Panthers draft and looking at the history of the Panthers under Ron Rivera, they were a very defensive-oriented team, and they lost those players. But looking at their draft, they got Derek Brown, they got Yetur Gross-Matos. I don't know if I mispronounced that. And they strictly drafted defense. So they're obviously trying to string a defensive team together like they did when they made the Super Bowl because they had Luke Kuechly, they had Thomas Davis. They didn't have a very strong defense, but having Matt Rule address defense and then also just having Matt Rule assess defense and then having Joe Burrow kind of put his mindset in the offensive side shows that they're really kind of putting together the players they want in their own type of organization. So although the Panthers are going to be at the bottom of this division, I think they're going to go through some growing pains, but in the future, there will be a very good team.
Yeah, I think they can potentially be the third seed in this division, but I would predict that they are the fourth best team in this division. I do think the hierarchy of this division is going to go almost exactly like it did last year, but I do think, again, the Buccaneers are going to be a playoff team. But kind of looking at the Panthers, they kind of scream a fringe bottom 10, bottom 12, bottom 15 team in the NFL just by the way this team is constructed. I mean, you have guys, again, you sign guys like Teddy Bridgewater, you sign guys like Robbie Anderson, and these are players. If these are your main kind of players on offense, along with a great player like Christian McCaffrey, of course, you're not going to win 2 or 3 games, but you're not going to win 8 or 9 games as well. I really do think they're building their roster smartly to consistently over the next 3 years win around 6 games, win around 7 games, win around 5 games to still get top 10 picks, still get great players like Derek Brown out of Auburn, but still instill kind of a winning culture into your football program. So I really do think that that's exactly what Matt Rule is going to be doing. I don't see any tanking going on from the Panthers, but I certainly don't see a playoff push happening from this team. Again, I do think this is a team the next 3 years who is going to try to win every single game, is going to put their players in the best position to win every single game. I just don't think this team has the talent to win every game yet, and I don't think that's really the goal of Matt Rule and this organization just yet.
Yeah, I think Matt Rule's going in kind of with the college mindset. Obviously, when you take over a college team, you don't have your recruits in there, so you're
Yeah.
not going to be as successful. But you saw that with him at Baylor, he was able to get his recruits in there, and they were able to become. They lost the Pac-12, the Big 12 championship last year, and they won 11 games. Showed how good they were in their huge turnaround. So with Matt Rule becoming the head coach of the Panthers and getting his players in there and the players he wants, he's able to kind of put in the mindset and the culture he wants with the Panthers and able to have them really turn around and become a great team.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a team in college football like Baylor too. I still wasn't even overly impressed with some of the talent they had on that roster, and for Matt Rule to kind of bring that team, like you said, to an 11-win season, that's very impressive. And I mean, even looking at LSU again, arguably the greatest college football season of all time, certainly the greatest passing season of all time. I mean, he really schemed around a subpar, just really just kind of an average offensive line in the SEC, one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive kind of division in all of college football. I know you had a lot of great offensive weapons like Clyde Edwards Hilaire. You had Jamar Chase. Obviously, you had a great quarterback. But again, I'm really impressed with with what Joe Brady did with that LSU offense, which really has been dormant the last 10 to 15 years, and really what Matt Rule has done with his college programs with Baylor.
Yeah. So quickly running through our little preview. I have the Saints, Buccaneers fighting for the top of this division, and then the Falcons, Panthers at the bottom. And I can see, like you said, I can see them fighting for the bottom of the division. But I do think the Falcons are a little bit better and have more talent on their roster, so I can see them. I will see them. I'll place them at third in this division and the Panthers at last.
Yeah, me too. I really foresee, again, a similar hierarchy in this division and really a similar win loss total, except for the Buccaneers. I do see the Saints winning around 12 games. I do see the Buccaneers winning around 11. I would not be surprised to see the Falcons end up 7 and 9 this season, but I would predict them to go a little bit worse than that. And then with the Panthers, I do think they're going to win around 5 to 6 games.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for watching. We hope you enjoyed. Let us know what you think about the NFC South division. We'll see you in the next one.